One part of the bill discusses police discipline, how police officers are disciplined. Currently, a sheriff or a chief of police has the authority to and the responsibility to discipline police officers. A normal complaint, just say it's rude and discourteous. A citizen gets pulled over by the police. Either one thinks they were pulled over illegally, or maybe they believe that the police officer was rude and discourteous. Under the current law right now that we've operated under for a long time, that complaint would come in, we would investigate it, the findings would come to the chief or sheriff, and then the chief or sheriff would make a determination of what that discipline would be. Then you go to the officer and say, here's the discipline. The officer can accept it, or he can reject it. If he rejects it, then we go to a hearing board of 3 people that the police chief would appoint to the hearing board. And it would be officers from required by law to be officers one of equal rank, a command staff level, and another person. They would then have a hearing. The police officer could have an attorney. We could have an attorney to prosecute it, and there would be a hearing, and then the hearing board would make a final determination, say, okay, he's guilty of this or not guilty of this. If he's guilty of this, they would give a suggested discipline to the chief or the sheriff, and we could go above it or we could go below it. Under the new law, the chief and sheriff will have no authority to discipline officers whatsoever, which I have a problem with as an elected person, that the citizens elected me to run a sheriff's office, a police department. That's part of my responsibilities, to investigate and discipline officers. Under this bill, what will happen now is the head elected county executive or county council, and they're unclear, they weren't specific in the law whether it could be just a county council president or a county council. In other counties that have elected county executives, it would be the county executive. They would put together an oversight board that a citizen could complain directly to them about a police officer, or if they complained to the police department would investigate it. Even if they got the complaint at that board, it would go back to the police department, it would be investigated, and then the results go past my desk directly to this board. Nobody on that board can have a relationship to law enforcement. Nobody can be a law enforcement officer on that board. They will determine the discipline. They will send it to me as the chief or the sheriff. I have to impose that discipline on that officer. I have no say in it to lower that discipline at all. If the officer rejects the discipline and wants a hearing, it goes back to that board. They then appoint a trial board or a jury, if you will. None of those can be police officers. And then you would have a hearing similar to the old system. Once that hearing board handed down that sentence, if you want to call it a sentence, or that discipline, the chief or sheriff has no authority to go any lower. The chief or sheriff would then be able to go up higher than that. For instance, if they said, okay, they're going to suspend him for 30 days, and the chief said, no, I'm going to fire him. The chief would then have that authority, or the sheriff would then have that. What's troubling for me in this scenario is, and I understand the thought behind it, is to have citizens, we're paid by the taxpayer. We serve the citizens of our jurisdictions. And I understand that there's been challenges in some communities about the discipline of police officers. But what's troubling to police officers in general, and I've talked to many since this bill and during this process, is that we're going to have people sitting in judgment of police officers who have very little training. I think in the legislature that they said that they had to be trained by the Maryland Police Training Commission. Well, that training will probably consist of a 30-hour course. So we're going to be the only profession, I believe, that their discipline is handed down by people who really have very little ideas other than what they've seen on television, or 30 hours of training, or what a police officer does. What the legislature's done, in my opinion, is they've taken, the citizens elected me to do this job. If they don't want me to do this job or don't think I'm doing the right job, then don't vote for me next time.